We are live. There's always a lag. Please bear with us. Okay, Baruch HaShem. How you guys doing? Did you guys read the Torah portion last week? We found something that we wanted to share, but this is just too great. This supersedes it. We learned something last year from Rabbi Rubin's lecture, and I think it's Stump to Rabbi number 148, where he goes over the Mendel's law and the law of heterosis, hybrid vigor, like recessive genes, and all kinds of stuff that are alluded to in Parshat Vayetzei, the book of Genesis, chapters 28 through the beginning of 32. And I briefly talked about that the other day, on Friday, and I wasn't sure if there was anything else to add, but we saw something amazing. Baruch HaShem. This is just awesome. The Torah portion starts out in chapter 28 of the book of Genesis, verse 10. And Jacob left Beersheba and he went to Haran. He arrived at the place and lodged there because the sun had set, and he took some of the stones of the place and placed them at its head, and he lay down in that place. The sages say this place is Mount Moriah, the future site of the Holy Temple. And Rashi says the order of the words is out of order. If it was a natural day where the sun set naturally, the order should have been reversed. So they say God made the sun set out of place, like early, and then caused Yaakov to fall asleep so he could give him a prophecy of the angels. And in verse 12, and he dreamed, and behold, a ladder set up on the ground, and its top reached to the heaven, and behold, angels of God were ascending and descending upon it. The simple meaning that there's multiple meanings, but the basic one is that he's leaving Eretz Israel, the land of Israel, the Holy Land, from Beersheba to go to Haran to find a wife. He ends up finding multiple wives to start the nation of Israel with. But the commentators say that the angels ascending and descending were the angels that minister only in the land of Israel were going up to heaven and being replaced by angels to guide him outside of Eretz Israel. When I was looking for a thumbnail on this for this stream, I saw the DNA strand, and I thought, that's a ladder. That's a ladder. Baruch HaShem, that's a ladder. Although that's a ladder. A ladder. It's a Jacob's ladder. It's a ladder to heaven. And if you look at the DNA strand, it looks just like a ladder with I can't remember what all the parts are, but there's the twisted rungs, I think, where the chromosomes are, and then the like rungs of the ladder that connect the two twisted double helixes, or the double helixes. And all this is great, but you guys probably want the proof. Like, what? How does this connect anything? How does this connect to science or DNA or? There's something else in the next verse, in verse 13, but we're not sure if we're going to have time to get what I was really focusing on when I started this. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get there or not. But in, I guess, chapter 30, verse 32, through chapter 31, verse 13. When Yaakov goes to Haran, he finds his relatives' home, the house of Lavan and his daughter Rachel, and he begins working for Lavan, the wicked, lying cheat, and he strikes a deal to get a wife. He says he's going to work for 7 years. And Lavan has this tiny little flock of sheep and goats that's so small that a little girl can herd all by herself. And most of the flock is all solid colored sheep. Solid brown, solid black, and solid white, with a few streaked and speckled and spotted sheep. And the deal is, Lavan, Yaakov says, if after he works for Rachel and then gets switched for Leah, and then he works another 7 years to finally marry Rachel. He has the wife that he came for after he worked 14 years. He has to make another deal to get something that he can leave with to start a family. So he has to work another 6 years to get some kind of wages. And Yaakov says to Lavan that he only wants all the abnormal colored freakish sheep, the streaked, spotted, and speckled sheep and goats. And Lavan says, if only it will be as you say. I mean, he thinks Yaakov is insane and he's really a cheat, but that's what the wicked think. The wicked think that everyone is like them. Lavan says, or is it chapter 30, verse 31? And he said, what shall I give you? And Yaakov said, you shall give me nothing. If you'll do this thing for me, I will return. I will pasture your flocks and I will watch them. I will pass through all your flocks today, removing from there every spotted, speckled kid and every brown lamb among the sheep and every spotted and speckled one among the goats. And this shall be my wages. And the amazing thing is, God made a miracle through creation. And that's the thing with the second dream. And where is it? I think it's in chapter 31. All the spotted, speckled, streaked, like freakish colored animals are removed from Lavan's flock that Yaakov was guarding or herding. And to make the miracle more natural appearing, he uses these peeled rods in verse 37 of chapter 31, Genesis. And Yaakov took himself moist rods of poplar, hazelnut, chestnut, and he peeled white streaks upon them, bearing the white that was on the rods. And he placed the rods that he peeled in the gutters of the watering troughs where the animals would come to drink, opposite the other animals when they would come into heat, when they would come to drink. The flocks came into heat by the rods, and the animals bore ring, spotted, and striped offspring. Basically, the sages say what a person looks at the time of conception, both for the man and the woman, affects what the offspring of the child looks like. There still has to be some kind of DNA for the traits to appear in the child, just like the sheep, which we're going to find out how all this was in a second here with God's help. Oh, sorry, that was chapter 30. Now we're on chapter 31. And after he becomes, verse 43 of chapter 30, and the man became exceedingly wealthy, and he had prolific animals, maidservants, manservants, and camels and donkeys. Meaning all the stuff that he did. So his effort was just to peel rods and put them in the watering troughs. Everything else was a miracle from God. But how he got this idea was a dream. He's about to leave after Lavan and his sons see all this stuff that he's amassed, which is another huge lesson from last week in this Torah portion is hide your blessings. Do not do everything that you can to hide everything good, because people see stuff and they think they want it. Basically, it's not good. Causes a big harm to a person's blessings. So he tells his wives Rachel and Leah that their father is a cheat, which he never told them the entire time. But now that it has a point and a purpose, he has to tell them. He's telling them all this, and he says in, where is it here? Chapter 31, verse 11. An angel of God said to me in a dream, Yaakov. And I said, here I am. And he said, now lift up your eyes and see all the he-goats mounting the animals that are ringed, speckled, and striped, for I have seen all that Lavan is doing to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a monument, where you pronounced to me a vow. Arise and go forth from this land and return to the land of your birth. And then in verse 17, so Yaakov rose. Oh, that's not it. Where is it here? Lifted up his eyes. Sorry about this. We skipped a verse. Verse 10. And it came to pass at the time that the animals came into heat that I lifted my eyes and saw in a dream, and behold, the he-goats that mounted the animals were ringed, speckled, and striped, even though they weren't. All the animals in his flock were solid colored. The angel was showing him that they had all the components, all the DNA, all the recessive traits to bear ring speckled and spotted sheep and goats in their chromosomes. All he had to do was use the trick with the peel rods. There's a lot more that Rabbi Reuben goes into on all this in Stump the Rabbi 134, and I think the Jewish Intimacy series number 25 and maybe 26. What the Rabbeinu Bachaye and Reb Monk say is that if an animal A mindless animal can have their offspring affected by what they see during the time of conception. How much more so for a sensitive, thinking, intelligent human being has the power to affect their offspring with what they imagine, what they look at, what they see during the time before and during when they conceive a child. Rabbi Reuben says that a person should have no pictures of human beings in their bedroom. No pictures of animals, especially not carnivorous animals, and not even in your kids' rooms. But it affects, especially for kids, and especially for a man and his wife during the time of conception. Rav Monk says a man and his wife should purge their mind of every foreign thought, of every third party, and think only holy and pure thoughts about each other and their service of God. And in that way, a person can merit, if they really sanctify themselves, they can merit bringing a soul into the world of someone like the prophet Jeremiah. Like it says in Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 5. Before you were formed, I knew you. I can never remember the whole. Okay, that's great. I can never remember the whole verse. Verse 5. Before I created you in the womb, I selected you. Before you were born, I consecrated you. I appointed you a prophet to the nations. And I think, I can't remember what other, there's at least one other prophet where it says basically the same thing, where it's only because of the sanctity and the acts and how the prophet's parents behaved before and during conception that God selected a super powerful soul from the vessel of souls up in heaven. Everyone says it doesn't take that much for a person to go from, and the opposite of this is if a person doesn't do these things, a person thinks unclean thoughts or looks at foreign images other than their husband or wife during the time of conception, they not only don't get a holy soul, they don't even get an average soul. They get a tortured and mutilated, what everyone calls a Balmum soul, master of deformity, just a twisted torture soul. Someone that has to go through a whole heap of struggles in life to be able to fix themselves and do what's right. He says the effort that it takes to just get an above average soul is so minimal, it's worth whatever it takes. The whole point with the science thing, like the illusion, the Jacob's ladder, alluding to the DNA double helix. The whole point with all this stuff is to know that the Torah is true, and it's from God, and it is perfect. And if we don't do what it says, it's only us that will suffer. There's the next verse, since we've got a little bit of time here. The next verse from the Jacob's ladder. Yeah, let's see. Okay, here we go. Baruch HaShem. When I first read the Torah portion, I went over it last Saturday night, Sunday morning, and I beg God for these just awesome tidbits that He gives me. They don't come as often as I would like, but it's more than enough that I can deal with, really, because they're worthless if you can't share them with somebody. And the book of Genesis, chapter 28, verse 14. The sages have a teaching. First we got to go. The sages have a teaching that anytime there's ammunition for heresy or idol worship, God always hides the weapon to fight it right close by. We've gone over a couple so far this year. One was in the first chapter of the book of Genesis, verse 26, and then the sword to cut down idolatry and heresy in verse 27. For people that think that there's more than one God, or God has some kind of multitude or whatever people think. And then again in, where is it? I think it's chapter 9 in Genesis. Or maybe it's chapter 6, I forget which. And in the image of God he made man. This one's a little more obscure. It's not, not that, but I want to uproot Amalek, and the Brother Urban says the biggest Amalek, the biggest doubt, the most dangerous Amalek is the doubt that we have inside our hearts. Where'd it go? Okay, here we go. Genesis chapter 28, verse 14. And behold, this is after, in the dream that Yaakov had in the beginning of the parasha. And behold, the Lord was standing over him, and he said, I am the Lord, the God of Abraham, your father, and the God of Isaac, the land upon which you are lying. To you I will give it, and to your seed. And I thought, standing over him? God doesn't stand. God doesn't have legs. God has no form or no likeness or no image, like it says in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 24 or chapter 4. That is an awesome chapter, one of my favorite chapters. And I thought, I looked for the weapon close by. I couldn't find it. At least not there. Not until I read the Haftara, the portion from the prophets that's read along with the Torah portion. And the really amazing thing is that the reason why the sages instituted the reading of the Haftara was because the Romans, during the persecution of the evil Romans, before they destroyed the Second Temple, they forbid public reading of the 5 books of Moses. But they were okay with the reading from the prophets, which, to a lot of people wouldn't make any sense. What's the big deal? What's this and this are both, like Rabbi Reuben says, Divrei Elokim Chaim, the words of the living God. So why were they so adamant about not reading from the 5 books of Moses? Because the 5 books of Moses is the most clear. The prophets are kind of fuzzy. So I started reading the book of Hosea, chapter 11, verse 7. And my people waver whether to return to me, and to the matter concerning which they call them together they do not uphold it. How shall I give you, Ephraim? How deliver you, O Israel? How shall I make you as Admah Make you as Sfoim. My heart is turned within me. Together my remorse has been kindled. I will not execute the kindling of my anger. I will not return to destroy Ephraim, for I am God and not a man. In your midst is the Holy One, and I will not enter a city. One in the Parsha, the anthropomorphism was the third verse of the Parsha, and in the Haftara, the weapon to fight it is the fourth verse. Baruch HaShem. So awesome. So awesome. Hopefully someone listens to this and finally wakes up from the lies they've been telling themselves. Because it's just, it's so great. It's so amazing and awesome and wonderful. But if I can't share it with someone, if it doesn't help someone else to see the truth, it's just, so much lost potential. That the Haftara last week was awesome. And the other amazing thing that connects with heresy and idol worship is that the Haftara, basically all the book of Hosea, is all about the prophet Hosea rebuking the 10 northern tribes and their wicked king Jeroboam ben Nebat. He was a Rasha, a wicked guy. And the amazing thing, he didn't believe in idolatry. He installed 2 golden calves and forced / enticed the 10 northern tribes to worship idolatry. Not because he believed in it. Not because he believed in idolatry, because he was jealous. That's why. He was jealous of the honor that he saw the first time they all went to Jerusalem for the festival. The root of idolatry and heresy is not it's not belief. It's desire. Like the Ramchal says in Mesilat Yesharim, chapter 11, on specifics about the virtue of cleanliness, page 79 in the Feldheim edition. Whoever gets angry should be regarded by you as though he is engaged in idolatry, the sages say. About envy and lust, we clearly learned in Perkei chapter 4, verse 21. Envy, lust, and the pursuit of honor remove a person from the world. For this reason, the analysis that is required in these areas is for the sake of fleeing from them and from whatever stems from them, for they are, each and every one of them, deviant offshoots of an alien vine. That's extremely harsh words from the Ramchal. And the word he uses for alien in Hebrew is, where is it here? Alien vine. Hagafen Nakriya. The root is Nokri, the Hebrew word for the seven Canaanite nations that God commanded the Israelites to destroy when they entered the land. So when he says all those things are deviant offshoots of an alien vine, we have to learn what they are and identify them within ourselves and rip them out and then chop them up into little tiny bits and then burn them in a pile as an offering to God. Rubber ribbon should be on soon, so we're going to save some battery and pray we have the merit to learn more Torah with rubber ribbon. Because it is the best. The Torah has everything in it, not just the most important thing, which is learning about God and how to serve Him the right way, how to survive life, how to survive all our struggles, all our problems, how to interact with people. It's got science, like we learned today, super advanced science, like 4,000 years advanced. You guys want to talk about ancient aliens and ancient astronauts and all that kind of shtiot nonsense, conspiracy garbage. This is real. No making it up. We don't need to fake the moon landing or anything like that. Okay, we're gonna get going. Hashem bless everyone. Thank you everyone for learning with us. And if you're not subscribed to Rabbi Reuben already, or you haven't watched those lectures, watch the Stump the Rabbi 143 is in the comments. He brings a whole bunch of sources about like all kinds of stuff, Mendel's P experiment and law of heterosis and hybrid vigor, which is something we didn't cover, but that's why Yaakov only selected the early bearing flocks as for hybrid vigor. The patriarchs were incredibly wise. Oh, this is too great not to share also. Baruch HaShem. Please, I just help us to find this verse. Last week's Torah portion, Parashat Vayetzei, also had the first superheroes. I mean, the first superhero was born earlier, but we didn't really understand until this parsha. In chapter 29 of the book of Genesis, verse 2. He looked, and behold, a well in the field, and behold, 3 flocks of sheep. There they lay there beside it, for from that well they would water the flocks, and the stone over the well of the mouth was large. When all the flocks would be assembled there, they would roll the stone from the mouth of the well and water the sheep. Then they would put back the stone over the mouth of the well in its place. Yaakov comes, and there's a little interaction, and he says, basically, why aren't you watering the flocks? And I say in verse 8, but they said, we'll be unable to until all the flocks will have been gathered, and then they will roll the stone off the mouth of the well. We will then water the flock. While he was still speaking with them, Rachel had arrived with her father's flock, for she was a shepherdess. And it was when Yaakov saw Rachel, daughter of Lavan, his mother's brother, and the flock of Lavan, his mother's brother, Yaakov came forward and rolled the stone off the mouth of the well and watered the sheep of Lavan, his mother's brother. Something that took a massive, huge stone that took who knows how many guys, like at least 10 full-grown men to move off the mouth of this well. Yaakov, all by himself, just moved it out of the way. Like it was nothing at all. And his sons, the 12 tribes, all had similar amazing quote superpowers, but they're not super, they're miraculous. They're gifts from God. We'll find out some allusions to a few of them as we read later on, especially if we get some help from the commentary. For anyone that doubts any of this, like, I don't know what to do other than just beg God for help and keep learning. But not all, but most of the superheroes from comic books and movies, they're all from what's called the midrashim, the kind of semi-mystical stories of the Jewish heritage, like the behind, what everyone calls the behind the scenes commentary on the 5 books of Moses. And most of the comic book writers and stuff, a lot of them are Jews that used to study in yeshiva, and that's where they got all the ideas from, like the Flash and the Hulk, and I forget who else. Benjamin was a werewolf. A whole bunch of other stuff. I can't remember it all though. Okay, we're gonna get going. Hope you guys are all doing well. Anyone that's not subscribed to everyone, subscribe and watch his lectures. Everyone who is, like his lectures and share them. But the best thing that we can all do, since it's not possible really for most of us to watch live, which is the most merits, and we all need lots and lots of merits. The next best thing is to be as close as you possibly can. So if he uploads a video, watch it first thing. But if you can watch it live at bh.live, or download his the Baruch HaShem app, then you get extra merits. And when you pay attention and watch whole lectures, God will give you amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. Like everything that you need to hear for the day, the week, whatever's going on. If you do it with consistency, eventually you'll start feeling like he's talking to you, and and you get like, how do you know I was doing that? Or let's see, like exactly what I needed to hear, the question that I had. And there's tons and tons to learn. It's just tons. So awesome. If you guys need any suggestions or any help, post a comment. I'll do the best I can with God's help. Baruch HaShem. Your Torah is so awesome. So it's the best.